Hey everyone, and welcome to the Monetize Your Expertise podcast. I'm your host, Grant Weherley, the online course guy helping you every week to monetize your expertise. Just go to myepodcast.com for tools and links and more for all episodes. In this episode, I talk with Cody Mckibben, who's best known for his online community, the Digital Nomad Academy, as well as his high-level mastermind retreats that he holds in some of the most beautiful parts of Thailand and elsewhere. This was actually how I originally met him, attending one of these retreats, and in this episode, you'll hear about how he built a passionate community, how he built himself into an authority figure, and more. So stay tuned and enjoy. Hey podcast listeners, thanks for joining me today. Today I'm here with Cody Mckibben, founder of Thrilling Heroics and the Digital Nomad Academy. Thanks for joining me today, Cody.
Yeah, man, it's nice to be with you, Grant.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So tell us a bit about, if you meet somebody, standard thing is, hey, who are you, where are you from, what do you do? How do you typically describe what you do to people?
My least favorite question.
It's pretty cliche, I know.
Basically I have been, long story, but to make it really short, basically my short spiel is just that I got tired of the template life I was living back home. In probably 2004, one of my closest friends passed away, and took a close look at how I was living, and in 2008, finally just decided to get a one-way ticket to Asia, moved out here to Thailand at the time, and basically I've been traveling 4 or 5 continents for the last 7 years. And getting into all kinds of little different business things, spin-offs here and there, but primarily just building a good community of people that want to design a better life for themselves and typically get into entrepreneurship and business.
Business things.
Business.
Sounds technical.
Yeah.
So what were you doing before you started to come abroad and work for yourself?
Well, lots of things, but I suppose right before really getting into business, I got my degree. I studied history and humanities and religions and philosophy and all kinds of weird shit like that.
Sounds practical.
But it was really interesting. Definitely learned a lot of things that I think are useful in business, like understanding people, what motivates people, persuasion, all that sort of thing. But I just got a part-time student job working with the College of Business at my university. And that carried on for a couple of years, and then at the time it was just kind of the easy thing. It fell in my lap. I got a full-time job with them around when I graduated, and I'd slowly started I kind of had a bit of a business mentor, and I was always going to these different conferences at Stanford University and stuff, and just learning a lot, soaking it up. Eventually, basically started doing web design, web development services, kind of freelance on the side, and then that took off, and so I quit my job, worked from home for a year, and then I read 4-Hour Workweek like a lot of people, and a few other books, and got the travel itch, and just decided to take off and see how different a life I could live somewhere the other side of the world.
Awesome. And so it's been several years now, and so what do you think some of your big revelations or lessons learned along the way have been, the process? Because I know it's hugely educational to get abroad, travel, work for yourself, things like that.
Well, yeah, as far as travel more or business?
Either.
Or both.
Whatever's been the biggest aha moment for you that's really changed your worldview.
I think just the longer you do this stuff, I think it's very common you find that people like us do both, right? You're involved in entrepreneurship and either one, whatever you're talking about. I do think the longer you do that, you kind of get outside the box, I guess, and gives you, a very different perspective on life and society, and like how we live and what work means. I probably one of the biggest things is work, just like what is work. I think a lot of people in the working world, like a job is just something, it's like a responsibility you have. It's just I can curse, is that all right?
That's fine.
It's some shitty thing you have to do, just to like pay the bills, just to get by.
Warning, Cody cusses a lot. Children should leave the room. Just kidding.
I'll go easy on it. But yeah, I think a lot of people like have that negative mindset about work and their career and jobs. Whereas if you can get outside of that box, like to me, and I still struggle with that. Like a lot of times, like you go in and out of that mindset, like the poverty mentality, and just like thinking, oh, I gotta do this gotta grind, gotta pay the bills, But if you can kind of get a higher level view and realize work is really, for most people, it's like, what are you called to do? Like, if you can figure out your purpose, or, what mission do you have in life? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to create while you're here, before you're gone? And I think, yeah, it's just like, I guess it is a responsibility, but it's more of it's about creating value for the people around you. I think if more people could look at work that way, we would live in a much better world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like your answer. And sort of going back to your comment about your mental box that you live in, I always found it very interesting, the kinds of assumptions and perspectives that you have that you don't even know that you have until you get into a situation which challenges those perspectives. Like I found that a lot with travel. There's certain cultural perspectives that I think it's probably especially true of Americans, because we're sort of ethnocentric, and so like there's like American worldviews that you don't realize you have until you travel extensively, and then you're just like, whoa, okay, wow, I didn't even realize I had that assumption or that perspective until all of a sudden you see there's a different way of totally seeing the world is completely different, and that's really profound, I think, and very, very interesting.
We're kind of insulated, I guess, in a lot of ways, but I love travel for that reason, like you say, just you meet untold numbers of people from all corners of the world with all different backgrounds, doing very different things, and if you get the chance to live in different places, different cultures, and see a wide range of how people live their lives and what they care about, it's very eye-opening, and like you say, at the end of the day, you really learn about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So something just occurred to me as we were talking, that a particular topic that I actually really like to talk to you about. It's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I know that since being the founder, the creator of a community with a pretty passionate following, and I've been on your listserv, and I've noticed that you talk, or you oftentimes will send emails that include like your personal views, your personal story. It's like pretty authentic in terms of like, it's not very guarded or necessarily politically correct. It's just like literally what goes on in your life or what you believe.
That's why it's hard to tell people what I do, because it's like I just do whatever I feel like, really.
So what are your thoughts about being authentic, especially when you're brand or maybe a figure that, there's a pressure to, if you're the Digital Nomad Academy guy, you gotta like live a certain lifestyle, have a certain like picture of your life, and so what are your thoughts about the pressures surrounding that, and also the concept of authenticity?
It's not for everyone, I think, and there's definitely benefits to, as far as business, running a business, there's certainly benefits to running things a little more traditionally, I suppose, and focusing on the business. Like I've got a lot of friends that do it that way and kill it, so there's a lot to be said for that. But yeah, personally, I get a lot of enjoyment out of doing things the way I do them, just because I guess I've created a lifestyle and a business for myself where I just have a lot of freedom and flexibility to focus on the things I want to. And yeah, it all kind of, there is, like you say about having to live a certain lifestyle, to a degree. That's why I'm always trying to expand, actually. But yeah, to a degree, people expect whatever, a certain thing from you. But basically, I've created, I guess, pretty strong personal brand, quote unquote, small but enthusiastic following of people who kind of share some of my views. That's why it is difficult to describe kind of what I'm all about and what some of my businesses. I got lots of different things, different plates spinning, but what ties it all together is just mostly community and trying to create spaces for people that are either, hustling, building their own business nights and weekends and don't have a lot of entrepreneurial friends, or might be traveling like us and living abroad somewhere and feel kind of isolated. But people who are kind of like living their lives a bit differently, think a little differently than the mainstream about the world, and just trying to create opportunities for them to connect and help each other out and support each other. So yeah, it's very open-ended, but I enjoy it. But yeah, like I say, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everyone. If you're in it just to make money, this is not the way to go. But I really do enjoy. I lose focus on this often, but what I really enjoy is just helping people, opening their eyes to, like, probably just their own potential more. Helping people realize like they can go out on their own, they can build their own business, they can learn whatever skill they need. Like, a lot of people, I think, feel powerless, and they feel like they have to play this game of going and getting a job and relying on someone else to pay them a paycheck, and people don't feel like they're fucking good enough. I think, yeah, for sure, everyone always has room to grow and learn and improve, but I guess I'm trying to empower people.
That's awesome. So, and I know you do that beyond just your online community, because actually how we originally met was in one of your sort of travel/business retreats.
Yeah.
So how did you get into doing that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I'd been, I started blogging, years and years ago, but I put together thrillingheroics.com in 2006 in June. And yeah, it's definitely transformed and evolved over the years. But basically, that's always been just my headquarters online, my platform to, like I say, just to kind of talk about whatever moves me at the time. I don't write super consistently like a lot of people.
Want to know something funny, by the way? When I was structuring my personal blog, I was like, what's a blog I've looked at recently that was really pretty? And I actually emulated yours for the original design of my own blog. Yeah. I was like, I was reading your blog, and I like the way it's laid out.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, so props to you, and the way it's laid out. It's pretty original and aesthetic. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there.
Cheers. So yeah, I mean, I just started. I was doing my web development stuff and web design, and that was supporting me when I first started traveling. But I would just write, mostly just for fun, about topics that I felt strongly about, that I had some passion about. But it got to the point where I had enough people, like, every day in my inbox, people were sending me emails asking me how I got to where I got, not like I was doing anything huge, but a lot of people just thought, they would always say, oh, that's so cool, I wish I could have a business I could run from anywhere, And so eventually, like, I had that enough times, and I never really got into like coaching or consulting very much, but I would do a little bit of coaching when people get on the phone and help kind of give them pointers and tips now and then. But finally, yeah, it was so many people, always wondering how I'd done this. And so I ended up in 2010 building a course and a community, which is Digital Nomad Academy now. But I think, like, for me, I think like an online community like ours, or like the Dynamite Circle, if you're a little further in the game, or like a lot, there's several great communities online. I think they're very, very valuable. And particularly in instances like I mentioned before, like if you're at home building your business in your few spare hours after your job, and you don't have a lot of entrepreneurial friends or peers, or if you're traveling and you're kind of isolated, it's great to have an online community of people you can stay connected with.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my experience as well, the sort of before and after plugging into not being plugged into any kind of entrepreneurial community and then being plugged into one. It's a true game changer. And especially when you get plugged into ones with the same lifestyle, the same perspectives, the same challenges, the same goals, it's really, really helpful because you can help each other out.
Well, and so I actually started in college. I started a mastermind group.
Yeah.
So hopefully a lot of people listening into this will be
like a school mastermind, or was it a business mastermind?
It was I mean, yeah, so it was during college, towards the end of my time. It was when I finally figured out, oh, I'm interested in business,
Okay.
you know, and like I kind of, I don't know, I just figured things out, I guess, a bit more. Like before that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just followed the script, you know. My parents encouraged me to go to school, get a degree, all that stuff, but I was sort of aimless. So when I finally figured it out, you know, I just kind of surrounded myself with some of my more ambitious friends, and yeah, basically roped together a small group. I mean, it probably fluctuated over the whatever year and a half, 2 years we did it, you know, 5 to 8 people, and try to get together every week and just hold each other accountable to like our biggest goals and see how we could help each other out, help each other accomplish whatever we're focused on. And so that was a game changer for me. And then yeah, later on, you know, more recent years, I found again, like when I committed to do that on a regular basis, even just now I tend to do it over Skype with a few close friends that, you know, are running somewhat similar businesses.
Funny enough, I have a mastermind call scheduled right after this interview, so it's funny we're talking about
but
that.
I mean, that's always been a game changer for me. But so yeah, like that's kind of something I built into my online community as best as I can, and that I encourage people to do. And then I think just the like getting together face to face and spending even more lengthy time together and really bonding, and like the trip you came on, you know, if you're doing some recreational stuff together, like climbing and caving and having to help each other out. It's a great way to bond pretty quickly. I think, like, that's how I got into these events. I mean, I've been, I think, a pretty social person, you know, like to go out and spend lots of social time with friends and get to know people.
Definitely one of the more extroverted people I know.
Well, it's funny because I don't know that I think I could definitely come off that way, I guess, but I don't know. Anyhow, that's another conversation.
It's a tangent.
But I do definitely enjoy socializing and having that. I think it's because like I typically work from home for the most part. Sometimes I work in a cafe, but you know, I do my own thing, and I'm with the laptop most of the day, and so I just really appreciate and value the social time that I get. You know,
it's a balance for sure.
But yeah, so like I got into doing these retreats just because, I mean, because I try to take people to beautiful, awesome, exotic places that are just fun to spend time and have a holiday, but B, I try to rope together some really interesting, cool, ambitious people doing cool things, and, you know, see what magic happens when you spend whatever a week or so together, really getting to know each other, really getting to know each other's businesses, and seeing how you can help each other out, and yeah, just going through some things, you know, having fun and challenging yourself. So that's I guess, I mean, I've got other things going on as well, but my biggest, like the most recent business I've built up is doing these entrepreneur retreats on the beach in Costa Rica and Thailand. So they've been really fun.
So we've talked a lot about some of the things that you've done to build communities, bring people together. But I think one of the things that, especially if you have a personal brand, and people are looking to you, when was a time that you felt like a failure, and how did that feel being at the forefront of a personal brand?
Well, I mean, it happens quite often, really. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure the best story to tell. I've got a few stories like that, but they could really go down the rabbit hole. Probably the biggest is just like I mean, if you are in business for long enough, you're gonna get screwed at some point, and I've definitely put myself in a few positions, like with ex-partners where things went really bad, or someone in retrospect just didn't have the same like accountability and ethical stance as I do, you know. So yeah, I've had people, you know, take advantage of me or do questionable things in our business, and had to kind of really readjust and, you know, try to deal with that sort of situation and fix things. And you kind of have to approach your audience, your customers, whatever, with your tail between your legs and explain whatever's gone wrong. I mean, I found myself in that position a few times. I think the biggest lesson you just learn, you have to really do your homework, do your research, and get to know people. Sometimes it's easy to jump on an opportunity because it looks like, whatever, you'll make good money, or it just seems like an easy idea. I call it shiny object syndrome. I mean, probably a lot of people call it that, but shiny object syndrome is like, it's easy to get distracted by things that they just seem like an easy opportunity to take advantage of. But that's my biggest thing, is just kind of learning over the years to not be too easily distracted by stuff like that, and always just really remain committed to like the big goal, the end goal, whatever that is for you.
What was it like to sort of have to explain any kind of failure or negative experience like that to your community? Because I picture like one of those public figures, like the CEO of an oil company, being like, "Oops, sorry." Like, do you feel like a douchebag when you have to like go through that and actually show it to people? What was that experience like?
I mean, no, it wasn't that I felt like a douchebag.
Sorry,
but
bad choice of words. Probably.
No, I mean,
but you know what I mean. It's a difficult experience.
It's hard to, yeah. So I've been in situations where it really adversely affected my customers, and I felt very responsible for that. I felt like I made like a dumb choice that I shouldn't have made. But it wasn't like, I mean, I didn't feel like, I knew I was the good guy, really, which is why I've suffered in business, because I prefer to try to do the right thing and like preserve the trust that people have in me, as opposed to just making money, But yeah, sometimes that means it's really difficult because you got to take responsibility when no one else will, when other people want to do the easy thing or whatever, the unethical thing. But it's not difficult to it's not easy, but it's the easier side of thing to be as transparent as you can with your community or your readers or your customers, whatever.
That's how you built a passionate following, is to be open with them, be authentic?
I think so. I think it's a big part of it, yeah. And it's not like I'm not constantly wearing my heart on my sleeve.
Of course not. But the point I'm kind of getting at these questions is that I think if you're in a personal brand and people are looking to you and like your lifestyle and like sort of the image that you're putting out in the world, I think there's a lot of pressure for a lot of people who are in that position to talk it up, to like live what they think is expected of them, or at least try and show it that way. So I guess I'm just curious about your thoughts about, talking it up and putting that brand out there that you think people want versus how you really are.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that to a degree, I'm sure. But those are elements of the game that we're in that I don't like.
Yeah. I think it's inevitable to some extent, but I think some people use it as like a core strategy of like painting a pretty picture kind of thing.
Yeah. So what I see is, and what I guess makes me kind of grow tired of the niche I've found myself in, is like you say, yeah, there's a lot of people out there basically pushing bullshit.
Yeah.
I won't mince words. There's a lot of bullshit artists out there. Every day there's like 1,000 new people, competing in whatever you want to call this. I mean, a lot of people selling the dream, I guess. And it's like, yeah, in a way I kind of am doing that, but I try to be really as realistic as I can about basically showing people the benefits and like personally, I love the shit out of the life I get to live. It has its major challenge. Like it's harder in every way than the life I used to live. It would be way easier to just have a job and get a paycheck and scrape by and do the same shit everyone else is doing. That's easy, but it's not fulfilling. So I try to be responsible and balanced in showing the fact that like something much more enjoyable and fulfilling and I think creative is possible, but also being clear that it's not easy and like it's the most difficult thing in the world. It's the most difficult thing. So I think unfortunately the major problem is people are gonna see whatever they want to see. So I've had people accuse me of being a bullshit artist myself, for sure. I've had people. I mean, yesterday some guy called me a communist. Yeah, for the first time in my life, I got called a communist on Twitter because of one thing I shared. It's like
Are you
people,
a communist?
People see. I mean, no. I think that's a very. This is exactly what I said to you. I think that's a very oversimplified way of looking at the world. If you want to call me a communist, but anyhow,
there's two people in the world: communists and not communists.
People are yeah. It's like we've gone back to the 50s, but. People will see what they want to see. A lot of people will make assumptions and judgments based off of like very limited information.
Yeah, of course.
You could call me a communist based off of one or two tweets you saw. But, like that's a tiny fraction of what I am and what I'm about.
So when people accuse you or misinterpret what you're doing or judge it, how do you personally respond to that? Do you try and like protect your brand? Do you ignore it? What's your strategy?
It depends. I mean, usually I do try to address people like that if they seem remotely reasonable. I mean, if you're talking about Twitter and people just trolling you, like if you go to their account and see that they're nothing but just attacking people, then usually I'll ignore something like that. But I mean, yeah, like same as with paying customers. Like if someone has an issue, if they think they didn't get their money's worth, or whatever, there's some misunderstanding. I do try my absolute best to like communicate with them and figure out where the misunderstanding was, or what we're not doing to make them happy. And I mean, same with, to a lesser degree, but same with anyone, any of my readers or anyone who seems like a reasonable person but like has gotten totally the wrong interpretation or impression. So I mean, yeah, it's like I try to engage in a reasonable conversation with people and help people figure out what I'm actually about, especially in those instances when I think they're judging based on very, very limited information. But yeah, there's no point wasting all your time trying to defend yourself from every person. I mean,
that'd be a 24/7
like
job.
The more successful you are, the more money you make, the better a life you live. The happier you are, the more people are gonna want to take pot shots and try to bring you down a notch or three.
That's something I've realized, especially is true of personal brands, just because you're definitely putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And so the more you put yourself out there, the more you're exposing yourself for people to take shots at you.
So that's the question. Is it someone like that who's just really not happy and wants everyone else to be not happy? And if I could I don't want to waste my time on people like that. But if it's someone who seems like a reasonable person and maybe just doesn't get it, then then it's all usually a interesting opportunity to have an enlightening conversation. So
it sounds like you've had a lot of successes, a lot of failures, a lot of challenges, a lot of lessons learned from 2008 to now.
Well, yeah, for my whole life, I suppose.
Well, yeah,
especially since
learn it every day. But yeah, in terms of working for yourself, picking up and moving abroad, and doing the location independent entrepreneur thing. So given what all of those experiences and who you are now as a person resulting from those experiences, if you could pick yourself out of time, put yourself back in 2008, how would you start over from scratch given everything that you know now?
Well, can I go back before that?
If you'd like, yeah, sure.
I mean, I've been having a lot of conversations with people recently about college. And I'm not, it's a delicate subject. I don't want to tell people like not to go to college.
Well, feel free to be opinionated about it.
But yeah.
Disclaimer: no life advice should be taken at face value on this podcast.
But yeah, personally, if I could go back to into high school, I mean, I had a great college experience. I do appreciate and value what I got. Like, I learned a lot, and I think, like I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of things that I think inform how I'm able to understand people now. I think it's really invaluable in business, actually. It's just kind of understanding different cultures and how people think. But yeah, so I mean, I got a lot out of that. But I think if I could go back at that time, like I had no idea really what I wanted to do in life, and I was kind of under pressure for many different reasons, but felt the necessity to just kind of do that typical thing, like climbing the ladder, and it was just the next rung on the ladder was to go into university and
so you think that might have been a mistake?
Well, I didn't even know what I wanted to study. It took me a year and a half to kind of figure that out, and even when I did, I don't know that I made the right choice, and I saddled myself in a lot of debt and whatever sucked up. Well, for me, I think it was 4.5 years in the end. I got a lot out of it. That's what I'm not saying it was a complete loss or anything, but if I could go back, I think it would have been nice to a lot of people from other countries, other cultures, it's much more common to do like a gap year, especially like the UK and Australia. A lot of people will go travel for whatever 6 months or a year after they finish high school, and I think that I haven't done it, but I've met a lot of people that have, and I think that can be a pretty productive thing to do, because like we were talking about, like you'll expose yourself just to so many more people, viewpoints, cultures, and like learn some stuff, and I think that would have been valuable. Yeah, so I think personally, if I could go back, I might have, maybe I would have ended up in school eventually, but just like go out and get some real world experience, travel a bit, and just work,
It's actually something that's come up a lot in conversations as well for me is, should you go to college? Like, for example, I have an intern working for me, and we had that conversation because that's her age. She's at the decision point because she's 19, and I think she had taken a gap year, and she was like, I don't know if I actually want to do the college thing. What are your thoughts? And it's really mixed, because of course you learn stuff in college and you have good experiences, but that's true of no matter what you do for the most part. I think for me, the biggest thing is that you definitely, if you live life in the right way, you definitely learn more out of college than in college, because it's the real world. But what I will say is that it was kind of an incubation period, because if I had tried to do what I do now right out of high school, there was no way I could have emotionally or just in terms of maturity handled that effectively, because like you said, it's so difficult. So that's the biggest thing for me, is that there's definitely pros and cons. In some senses, it's overrated. It's not super practical, especially if you're trying to live this type of lifestyle and be self-employed. And there's so many entrepreneurs who sucked at school and they're awesome entrepreneurs. And so keeping all of that in perspective, but then also understanding that there's kind of a maturity thing, which also might play a role. But yeah, I think that's definitely something anybody who's listening that might be younger should definitely think about if that decision is coming up to them.
Yeah.
And I know you also have had a child recently.
Oh,
and
that's very different. Well, real quick, can I just
sure.
Let's talk about that in a second. But yeah, I think so don't listen to what I'm saying and think that it's not a good idea to go to college. But it depends on the person, like you say. It depends on how disciplined you are, how clear you are about what you want out of life. But in my case, when I look back, I think that it was not the best decision, because I just went because I felt like it was what I had to do to go to college and get a degree in order to be successful. And that's not true. I mean, in some things it is, and depending what you want out of life, it might be the right choice, but it's not like across the board everyone needs to go get a 4-year degree. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you don't need any degree, right?
Absolutely.
You do need to learn, but yeah, so it's just, I would have thought much more about it, and I would have probably made a different decision if I could go back.
So it sounds like, in your opinion, it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. You just think in your experiences you might have done it for the wrong reasons. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I definitely did it for the wrong reasons myself.
Yeah, and I think that's actually true of a lot of people, because they're like, I'm young, I don't know what to do. Might as well keep getting educated.
Yeah, and then you see people getting stuck in it, and they're like, the job market sucks, and people just don't know what to do, or they're by the time you've been a professional student for 22 or 24 years, it's scary to go into the real world, right?
Yeah.
That's what everyone talks about, is the real world. So you see people just continuing school or going back to school because they don't know what else to do, I mean, I've got a lot of friends who, racked up $100,000 or more of debt just from school. And in a very few cases, that might be a wise investment, but in most, I think that it's actually so much more risky than people are led to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. And I actually have a funny memory, just given what you're saying about how everybody just kind of, well, I'm not sure what to do, keep on getting educated. I was a member of some organization that's like, I don't know, like you get pretty good grades organization thing. And there was like a graduation ceremony thingy just for that group. And so they're like, okay, now all of you guys graduating, get up and stand in a line, and then we're gonna go down the line and see what every single person is gonna do going on. Like, what are your plans? Are you gonna go to grad school, or are you gonna get a job with XYZ company? So my name is Weherley, it starts with a W, so I was the very last one, and they started at the other end, they went down, it was like, law school, med school, physics, PhD, blah, blah, blah. Like every single one, without exception, I was the very last one. And instead of grad school, I was like, I'm going to start a business. And
nice.
I was just like, okay.
And everyone looked at you weird, right?
Well, I felt weird, and I was very like, I don't want to look at anybody right now because I feel really awkward and like I'm the lone one out, not going to grad school. But yeah, I think that this was a really interesting experience that sort of drives home that point that I even had professors that were like, you're pretty smart, you get good grades, you definitely have to go to grad school. It's like, well, I don't want to. Like, that's not what you have to do if you are good at school. Like, it's so interesting that our cultural perspectives make that almost mandatory. It's just like, oh, keep getting educated, keep getting educated.
It's, for a million different reasons, but yeah, it has been painted as the path to success for us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely, it can be valuable, depending what your goals are. But yeah, I think that's kind of a destructive thing that we've gotten into generally.
Absolutely.
Encouraging everyone. It's the path to success. Like, it's much more complicated than that.
So. I wonder if part of the reason that this happens is, and I know we're going to get back to that other topic shortly, but just one final random theory I'm coming up with on the spot. I think there's a delay like in culture and society and cultural standards, and it takes time for that to catch up to what's actually going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I think things have changed dramatically, and maybe getting a PhD was the go-to thing. If you could do it, you should definitely do it. It's always a great decision, maybe like a couple decades ago. Culturally, we haven't caught on to the fact that that's not really true anymore.
But like, you could get a MIT or Stanford education online for free now.
Yeah.
Like, it's the education that you
and not to knock it, of course, but again, it's just like, it's not the standard that it used to be, I don't think, but maybe culturally that's still slow to change.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, people like you and me sitting on a couch in Chiang Mai, with a laptop. Now we literally like are able to do things that only the obscenely rich or like major corporations could do, 10, 20 years ago.
Absolutely. That's even changed the past couple of years. I remember when I first started doing online course stuff, the technology to do that has changed over, like, when I started to a couple of years later. It's already so much easier than, like 3 years ago. It's ridiculous how quickly it changes.
Yeah, I mean, just if you know what your end goal is, then you can figure it out, And it's not to say that you shouldn't seek to learn and get educated, but there's a lot of ways to do that, and there's a lot of ways to reach your goals. And getting a certification or a degree or whatever from a certain institution is not like the magic bullet, the one and only way to get to success in life. Yeah,
and I think there's literally more information out there for free that you can consume, or free or cheap, way cheaper than higher education, than you could possibly consume in your entire lifetime. So I think if there's anything really truly positive, that's sort of like the unique value of something like MIT, for example. I have a friend who's there right now, and I've talked to him about it. And of course, you could find sort of what he's doing and learning anywhere else without going there. But I think what I've heard from him is that there are really great connections, certain kinds of connections. We make entrepreneurial connections, those are more academic connections, but that's really, really valuable. And I think that's one definite pro in the pro check mark in the pro higher education category.
Yeah. I mean, these networks and communities of people, I mean, that's what I did seriously seriously considered trying to sneak my way into Stanford Graduate School of Business for a while, which wouldn't have been a bad idea, but it would have been a very expensive choice. And then, a couple years later, I just realized, I'm already kind of doing what I really want to do, and I'm connected with a lot of those people via other means. So it's like, definitely, you do get a lot of value, and with college, a huge amount of the value is, especially the more you pay for it, it's in the connections. But you can get those other ways too. So I think it's just, you got to be really clear on what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of funny we put that decision on like 18, 19-year-olds to some extent. So to get back to that previous topic we were about to get into, I'm curious.
I'm a father.
Yes, you're a father now, and I'm wondering how that's changed your worldview. How has that changed your perspective, your priorities? Do you see things the same or much differently than you did before?
Man, that's such a big topic, and I'm probably not even far enough along yet to fully...
Still sinking in.
To fully, self-evaluate. But, definitely it's changed my perspective and my priorities a lot. Yeah, so I've got a beautiful 1.5-year-old son named Chris, and, he's like... the best thing that's ever happened to me. Definitely.
Now, are you saying that because you have to as a parent, or is that true?
it's true. Yeah, it is.
Because it's such a universal thing.
I don't want to get too sappy about it, but
feel free if you feel
but
like
there is, I think for a lot of parents, there's something about having a kid that you cannot describe. I always wanted kids. So I'm very happy about that. But definitely, I didn't feel ready. Mm-hmm. So it was scary. It is a lot of responsibility. In some ways, I do feel like it kind of limits my freedom. I'm someone who really, really values my freedom and flexibility. So I'm dealing with that and just figuring, you got to readjust. So I'm responsible for another little tiny human being now, which is a big change. I do my best to prioritize him a lot more. So my biggest worry now is just I want to put him in a great school, which is can be very expensive when you're living overseas. Generally, I would say one thing is I probably realized I think for me, I grew up a lot more. Just going through the whole process of coming to terms with fatherhood. So I think it's definitely helped me mature a bit and become a bit more responsible. It's always a work in progress, but I'm doing my best to install a lot of better habits and take my business more seriously as a business, because like I said, a lot of it was passion driven, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it
can be less profitable probably.
It's you got to build in as much discipline and structure as you can,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's awesome. It's had a big impact on all kinds of things. It's a challenge right now too, because just whatever passports and visas and immigration issues are complicated. So I think I've got several friends though that have families, travel with their families, live abroad. But that is another extra challenge when you're someone that, like me, I want to spend my time living abroad and don't have a lot of interest in moving back to the States in the foreseeable future. But it's just it's a challenge, but it's the next big adventure. So
that's awesome. It's great that you have seen so much value out of that you've grown so much and you've used that as inspiration, and it's helped you maybe get to the next level in a personal growth standpoint. So I think the takeaway from this interview is probably don't go to school and have lots of kids. I think that's what we're saying. I think it's a good summary.
Boom, there you go. Yeah, Cody wisdom.
That's your guys' life strategy takeaway out of this session. But now to finish up here, I've got a couple super quick questions. If you can try and answer in a single sentence, just a series of quick questions.
That might be a challenge for me. I'll try.
So what's something that you are better at than most people?
There's two things.
You better use a conjunction so it's one sentence. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, making connections and building communities, which are similar
Good
things,
stuff.
but slightly different.
What's something that you're really bad at and potentially much worse at than most people?
That I'm bad at in what?
That you're really bad at, worse than most people.
Keeping track of finances. I hate it.
Well, easy fix. You can hire an accountant. What's something that you're really excited about right now? Or most excited about in your life?
Well, actually, at the moment, I'm really excited to see my son. I haven't seen him in a while, and I'm hoping I'll probably be back with him next week. So
Nice. Family man.
Yeah.
Good answer. Politically correct. I think his mom will like that answer too. So what are you currently working on, and what are your any upcoming projects that you're really interested in that you want to share?
Well, yeah, at the moment, I mean, I've been building up this retreat business. So like the last 2 years, I've probably done a retreat every 3 to 6 months, and usually just get together 8 to 10 cool entrepreneurs and have a blast, like hanging out on the beach and training a bit and masterminding and just getting to know each other. So I've got another one of those coming up in early November, which I'm really looking forward to, and they're just getting better and better every time. That's kind of my biggest focus as far as new business. I'm getting into the product world, like the physical products a little bit. So yeah, I'm just like, there's a lot I'm focused on, like new things for me that I'm trying to learn and expand my business, which is exciting when I'm in the right frame of mind, and yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to, I guess I am a family man. I'm really looking forward to bringing my son out here to Thailand, hopefully real soon, and setting us up with a home base here and just kind of traveling with family and exposing him to a lot of new things.
Great stuff.
To me, it's exciting. Like, it's a lot of responsibility, but for me, it's pretty exciting. Kind of being able to. It's fun watching a new person develop, and I do think there's a fine line between like being too controlling of the process, but I get excited by it because it's like you get to help someone grow into their potential. So yeah, I'm excited about that, and I think I want to take my kid traveling as much as I can. I'm excited about that. So
awesome. And so it sounds, you said that you're getting into physical products. I think one of your next products should be a t-shirt that says, "Quit school, make babies." I think that's, and then a quote, and then like sign Cody Mckibben. So
that's a good idea.
If you guys are in Thailand for the November retreat?
Yeah. November 5th. Remember the 5th of
nice.
November?
I like it.
For 10 days on the beach in southern Thailand in Krabi. If you're interested.
Yeah.
It's for high-level guys. There's a good crew coming together. But
so where can people find out more about that retreat and everything else that you're working on?
If you're interested in the retreat, it's heroicescape.com. For pretty much everything else, I mean, yeah, my main home on the web is thrillingheroics.com. You can read my blog and find out more about me.
Great. So you heard it from Cody himself. Go check out heroicescape.com and thrillingheroics.com and check out what he's up to and get more awesome real-world life advice. And I really appreciate you coming here today, Cody, and sharing your wisdom.
Sure, man. Yeah, it's been a cool conversation.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
Hey entrepreneurs and experts, I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you learned at least one new big idea that helps you evolve your skills and gets you closer to monetizing your expertise and creating that successful knowledge business. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and Stitcher, and check out myepodcast.com for all episodes as well as the tips and tricks mentioned in this episode. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.